tried to call her Saturday, but her phone kept going to voicemail. And I drove by the house and like her car wasn't there. So then I went to the police station in Mankato and filed a police report with my dad.
We will not stop looking. Your family is worried. We miss you. We want to make sure you're safe.
That was missing person Wendy Lynn Kahn's daughter, Anissa Kahn, and her childhood friend, Dana Wilson. They're very concerned about Wendy's well-being, and after you look into the details of this case, I think you will be too. Let's raise some more exposure to Wendy's case and maybe, just maybe, get that tip called in that can help them understand where Wendy is. It's time to turn on the searchlight. Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. Not only are we going to be looking into the case of missing person Wendy Kahn, we're also going to do an update on the Robbie Hurt case that we covered last week. We had a brain scratcher submit some good information. I know of some of that information being true, so I wanted to share the details that maybe we didn't really nail in last week's episode with you guys. So please stay tuned till the end of this episode for an update on Robbie Hurt's case as well. Wendy Kahn's case takes place in Mankato, Minnesota. That is a city in Blue Earth County with a population of just over 41,000 people. Thankfully, Wendy's case does already have a NamUs profile, so we're going to start here to get all the vital statistics. Her date of last contact was June 1st, 2018, of course, in Mankato, Minnesota. At that time, she was 46 years old. She is now 47. Wendy Lynn Kahn. She is a Caucasian female, stands around 5 foot 5 inches tall, and weighs 160 pounds. For the circumstances of her disappearance, we have a very thin explanation, but with a twist that already makes me concerned about this case. Wendy Kahn last had contact with family on June 1st and hasn't been seen or heard from since that time. Her vehicle was located with a flat tire on June 7th in the 200 block of Bell Avenue in Mankato. And apparently it was found right behind a CVS pharmacy that she would frequently go to. Right off the bat, I'm just wondering, especially because the description of the flat tire is that the tire may have been slashed. So I'm wondering if someone punctured the tire while she was at CVS and then maybe followed her from the parking lot until the tire went flat. She lived a little bit west of the CVS, and it occurred to me that where they found her car could potentially be her route home. If she had stopped at the CVS, picked up something, and then was heading home, I think she would have gone around that block to turn around. We'll look at a map here in a moment, but let's continue. For her physical description, her hair color is red or auburn. Her eyes are green. We've got no other real physical distinctive characteristics. We don't have a clothing and accessories description, which obviously this is going to make this a very tough case. And there's no transportation information entered because we know that her vehicle has been found. So let's take a look at that map real quick. So they said that she was found in the 200 block of Bell Avenue. That is the address that I've marked here. But the CVS is actually over here. So, and this might still be in the 200s in terms of the street numbers. So, well, according to Google, it actually turns to 300 at this block. But I've heard several descriptions that it was actually behind the CVS, and it could be that she left the CVS parking lot on Long Street here, made a right, and then made another right onto Bell, and perhaps she did make it 1 or 2 blocks before she noticed that her tire was flat. But this is where her vehicle is found. Let's get into some of the news sources and see what we can learn about this case over at fox9.com. Police in Mankato, Minnesota are asking for the public's help in locating a missing 46-year-old woman. Wendy Lynn Kahn had last contact with her daughter on June 1st, but has not been in contact with friends or family since, which is out of character for her. And obviously, you heard in the clip earlier, her daughter was trying to contact her on her cell phone, and it's going directly to voicemail. Let's get some details about the vehicle over at southernminnesotanews.com. This is from June 8th, 2018. Commander Matt DuRose with the Mankato Department of Public Safety says Wendy Kahn's Nissan was found in the city of Mankato and reported by someone who had seen a press release about the missing woman. Investigators are combing the vehicle to determine if it provides any clues or leads as to Kahn's whereabouts. Kahn's family called police after not hearing from her for a couple of days. Continuing at MankatoTimes.com, June 14th, 2018. The Mankato Department of Public Safety teamed with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCA, to examine the West Mankato home of 46-year-old Wendy Lynn Kahn. Now, that's the start of something kind of interesting. And let me just say that I believe she was living with her boyfriend at the time. According to her daughter's social media, her daughter refers to this as her mom's ex-boyfriend. However, this is the same home that he was living at. So not typical in a missing persons case. I think that they would actually bring in a different bureau like that to do an examination on the home of a missing person. I think that suggests to me that they're trying to look into the possibility that something could have happened to her in that home. Now, the boyfriend, from what I understand, did not stop them from processing the home. I don't know if they had a warrant for it. I haven't seen any information to say that they did, and usually that would come out. So according to what I've heard, he went and sat in his car while the agencies basically processed his home. So it doesn't seem like he was really putting up much of a fight to try to stop them from doing that. But let's continue with another article at southernminnesotanews.com. Wendy Kahn's disappearance remains a missing persons case and is not a criminal case, says Mankato Public Safety Operations Commander Jeremy Clifton. And I think it's worth noting that this article comes out like literally a day after the news about the BCA showing up at her home comes out. So I think this is kind of their response to all of a sudden you have the community really worried about, are you guys looking into a criminal investigation here? Why are you going to look at her home when her vehicle is found? Her vehicle, I believe, is approximately 3 miles away from her home. But let's continue. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension's crime scene lab van was parked at Kahn's residence, her home surrounded by yellow crime tape. We did not treat it like a crime scene. However, they're a laboratory resource for us that we don't have here in Mankato, Clifton said. They more readily do this type of stuff within homes with more detail, and the cooperative team just overlaps each other. So we ensure that we're getting it done properly and looking at every avenue we possibly can in order to find Wendy. Now, admittedly, I've talked about several times on this channel that police departments operate very differently from area to area. This is the first time I've heard of something like this in a case that I've covered where it seems like I don't know that it's a forensic investigation, but they're bringing in another team to go specifically into the home. It really feels to me like they're checking the possibility that she might have been harmed in some way. And they might have good cause for that, according to some of the information that potentially shook out from friends and neighbors of Wendy. But there's another factor that actually might have encouraged this. The sale of the house, Clifton said, pushed investigators to enlist the assistance of the BCA. With the house for sale, time's of the essence. If there's items there that can be collected, we should do that quickly and more expediently. And once again, I'm trying to keep this separated because this information is not coming from a news article, but according to more information from her daughter, the house was owned by her ex-boyfriend, as her daughter says, and he left a vehicle and his own cell phone behind there. And apparently at this point, no one knows where he is. And we actually have some information that could support that because he's got a couple warrants out for him, but not in relation to this case. Keep that in mind. Let's learn more about him as we're moving forward to another article that was posted at Southern Minnesota Today, but for some reason wasn't accessible, so I had to go pull it from archive.org. Wendy Kahn's boyfriend isn't talking. Her father is stunned. This is from June 18th, 2018. As the days continue to pass in search for Wendy Kahn, her father says that he's in the dark, just like everyone else. Dennis Bierman tells SMT that Wendy's disappearance has left him just as stunned as anybody. After speaking with her father, SMT went to the West Mankato home where Kahn was living with her boyfriend, Mohammed Bilal Chugtai. We asked Chugtai if he had any possible insight into Khan's whereabouts or if he was worried for her safety, but he wouldn't talk, saying he's been advised by his attorney to not comment on the case. Just warning signs all over this. Kind of strange for someone that would have been in a relationship with her to not try to assist the investigation in a very simple way. You literally have a news source coming to you asking for information, and you're not going to take that opportunity to help the investigation just by talking to them and getting some more information out that might be helpful to the public in terms of where Wendy might be, what was going on leading up to her disappearance. Did he have some insight about her leaving, or wanting to go somewhere, wanting to run off with someone, whatever the story is? He's not taking an opportunity for any of that. And it seems like, unless he's lying, he's already been in contact with an attorney at this point. Why? This is 2 weeks after her disappearance. Some people might say, you know what, if a loved one of mine disappeared, yeah, I'd be in contact with my attorney too, because quite frequently in investigations, the person that the missing person is closest to is looked into. We've seen that definitely in numerous cases, and quite honestly, we've seen that with really good reason in several of those cases. Is this one of those? I don't know at this point, just sharing what I can with you guys, but let's continue. Family says Chugtai and Khan had dated on and off for about 7 years, and it wasn't always the best of times between them. Chugtai does have a criminal history that includes convictions for domestic assault, stalking, and violating a no-contact order, but none of those were crimes against Khan. Rather, they involved his now ex-wife and children. It was alleged that Chugtai regularly threatened to kill his whole family, saying he didn't care if he had to serve life in prison. It's also alleged Chugtai told one victim that he'd kill her with a baseball bat and bury her body in the backyard. Another victim he allegedly threatened to leave for dead in a dumpster. So I did go to Blue Earth County's website for active arrest warrants, just ran a check on his last name, and indeed, he does currently have 2 active warrants. The first one was issued June 25th, 2018. So obviously this is a bit after the disappearance. And then there was another one issued July 6th of 2018. I don't have a whole lot of detail here in terms of what these are for. If that article is accurate, they're for issues with his previous relationship. But it's kind of interesting that these warrant dates are so close to him putting his house up for sale, to the disappearance, and then him kind of disappearing as well. So while we're at it, let's just bring up a picture here that Anissa posted of him. This is the guy that we're at least looking for in relation to 2 felony warrants. On top of that, is he potentially involved in what's going on with this case? It certainly looks like it's a strong possibility. Now, that's not to say that he didn't cooperate with investigators. I've come into some information that it seems like he did, at least initially, speak to investigators. I don't know if that changed quickly. The way that he has warrants active at this point, I have to assume that he has basically disappeared, because otherwise he would be arrested at some point, and we're not seeing that. Here's another article that for some reason wasn't loading at the website, so I had to pull from Web Archive. Mankato police say missing person investigation remains a daily top priority. Commander Dan Scheisel said, "Our detectives continue to track down and investigate any leads that come in. Whether Chugtai has been cooperative in the investigation was not made clear, but Scheisel explained that they have taken a closer look at many within Khan's circle. From the start of this investigation as a missing person, those are all persons of interest that you try to look into, whether they're family or close acquaintances or whatever." So obviously they're trying to dig into her life. And that's a little bit of the explanation that came out about why they processed the home. But of course they had to process the home quickly because it was up for sale. And if there was any evidence there, it was likely to be destroyed or disappear very, very quickly. Of course, I always try to look for the bright side in these cases, and there's a little bit of a special one here in terms of some friends of Wendy's from her past that all come back together to help. And over here at KEYC.com, former classmate continues search for Wendy Kahn. Beginning at 10 a.m. Saturday on Bell Avenue behind the CVS, Annette Vanderplas will be handing out flyers with the help of 2 organizations. Vanderplas and Kahn were both students at Mankato East High School and graduated in 1989. United Legacy, a search and rescue organization based out of Shakopee, along with members from the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center in Minneapolis, will also be there to help get the word out. And it moves me that there are these great organizations that are looking to help people in this way. And I'm so thankful that we have those, especially to honor a case like Jacob Wetterling's, with his name literally being in the organization's title. Vanderplas says, "We just want to get the word out and keep her in people's minds and forefront. Wendy was very kind, soft-spoken, and an all-around good person. As many people that we can get out there, that'll be great, and we can all make a difference together." Now, that's not the only article that talked about this. As a matter of fact, here's a picture of another one of Wendy's former classmates. This is Sherry Warden, and you can see she's actually handing out flyers door to door there. So they got together on Bell Avenue near Long Street. Nearly 30 volunteers gathered Saturday morning and fanned out with flyers. "We just don't want people to forget about her," said Wendy's daughter, Anissa Kahn. Anissa described her mother as a loving and caring woman who was always there for everybody who needed her. And let me just say that I'll have a link to her Facebook page down below, and she very regularly posts and comments about how long it's been, how much she's hurting, and what she's missing in terms of the special connection and times that she had with her mother. It's really moving, and it's a big reason why I wanted to cover this case. I just also have to give a very big thank you to a brain scratcher that reached out to me and told me about this case, and her name is Lynn. So thank you to Lynn for bringing me in the hoop on this one. But it was really, once I saw Anissa's words, I knew that she needed help with exposure on this case, and I just wanted to do what I could. Wendy moved back to Mankato from Pennsylvania a few months ago and was working at a group home caring for its residents. And yeah, it looks like from what I could find, she was only back in the Mankato area for possibly about maybe up to 6 months most. Annette Vanderplas and Dana Wilson, who was in the video that we started this with, also they graduated with Wendy from East High School. And there was another one, Lori Folsom, was also among the several members from East High School. The volunteers also included Brenda Hanel, who used to work with Wendy at Midwest Wireless. Wendy worked in customer service and had the best sense of humor and was always willing to help anybody, Hanel said. Among the canvassers were a few people who have never met Wendy, including New West High School graduate Natalie Harmon. "I know if it was my mom, it would be awful, and I'd want everyone to come and help," she said. And I love that people realize that this does happen to us. And when it does happen to us, we need help. We need to pull together, and we need to do what we can, especially for someone like Wendy. Wendy worked in a group home for disabled adults. These are the types of people that when they go missing, a lot of other people are affected. She obviously had a really big heart to do that type of work. And it breaks my heart that we have to do things like this now, trying to keep everyone's attention raised to looking for her, trying to find her, trying to get that tip called in that helps with this case. And speaking of, in the detail box below, I have the contact information, including the case number. There is also a reward posted from Crime Stoppers, so I've got their contact information. I think the reward's at $1,000 right now, which is kind of the standard reward for Crime Stoppers, but it is there. If you do have any tips about this case, please, 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 for all these people that care about Wendy, for Wendy's family, call that tip in, and let's see if law enforcement can act on it and bring a change to this case, because right now it's been sitting stagnant for, it seems like, 8 months. Kahn birthday. wishes for her safe return. This is an article from July 20th, 2018. Friday, July 20th is the birthday of Wendy Kahn, but it's her family and friends who are making the wishes. Wishes for Kahn's safe return home. Today also marks 7 full weeks since anyone's had contact with her. Kahn's daughter has been very vocal about how much she misses her mother and just wants her home safe. Anissa Kahn says, every memory with my mom is something fun and different, and nobody could do or say anything to keep us apart. She always used to sing, "You are my sunshine" to me when I was younger, and even to this day she still did, said Anissa. Anissa Kahn says Chugtai has told her and told the police that Wendy ran off with another man. Anissa says that's a lie, saying her mother wouldn't just vanish without a word. Now, I don't know about the logistics of running off with someone else. Personally, it's not something that I've ever done, but for her vehicle to be found in kind of a disabled state doesn't really line up with that story for me in particular. You know, if they found her car at a bus station or at an airport or something along those lines, then maybe I'd have to consider that statement a little more. But the fact that it was found in her neighborhood, right behind a location that she would go to frequently, and it was in a disabled state, it just doesn't seem like it's solid information, and it kind of feels like a bit of an excuse. But that's honestly just my opinion on this. And keep in mind, we're getting this information kind of secondhand on top of that. It's being told to us through the filter of what Anissa's experience is. So it'd be great if Chugtai would talk to the press directly so we could analyze his information for ourselves, but obviously we don't have him doing that either. She also notes that none of Wendy's personal belongings are gone, and there's been no activity with her phone or bank accounts since she went missing. Multiple family members have said there was domestic abuse in the relationship, but that Wendy never got police involved. Moving on to another article at southernminnesotanews.com. And back to Commander Jeremy Clifton. He said it would be extremely difficult for someone to disappear for 2 months without an electronic footprint in this age of technology, but stressed that this case is still considered a missing persons case and is not a criminal case. It's almost too bad that they're not using the same approach that we heard with the Robbie Hurt case last week of treating it as a dual investigation. Now, they are saying that they're still open to the possibility that there might be a criminal element here, but in last week's case, law enforcement was being very clear that they were chasing down both possibilities right from the start. And here we kind of have what we more typically hear from law enforcement, that they can't process it as a criminal investigation until something literally points them in that direction. So I wish all these missing persons cases would be treated as, quote, dual investigations, but that is certainly not the case. Investigators are looking at locations around the county that Wendy was known to frequent. He says that they've talked to past friends, relatives, and acquaintances that can provide any avenue that leads to Wendy's whereabouts. Quote, anyone that's lived with her, anyone that's related to her, anyone that's been in a relationship with her, we have tried to go down those avenues to speak with. Anyone she's ever had contact with. We've been in contact with people that went to high school with her, just to try to find out if we can locate anything going on with her current or past history that would give us a location. Police also say they've searched the Minnesota River and other waterways in and around Mankato. Clifton says that's partly because of the flood levels, which were abnormally high for that time of year, but also because they're not ruling out any possibility. It's not that we haven't ruled completely out that something may have happened to her criminal in nature. It's highly suspicious for a person to go missing, as we've talked about for this long, said Clifton. Yet we have nothing to rule in that it is specifically or identified as criminal at this point. So we're looking at a wide array of hypotheses still, and theories about her disappearance. I get it, but it always hits me at this point in this conversation. At what point do we say this is suspicious enough that we should be considering something criminal? We have a guy that it seems like has disappeared. He's got 2 active warrants for domestic related issues in the past. We have a lot of people saying that there was some very bad things that happened in those past relationships. We now have people saying that there was bad things going on in this current relationship. We have her vehicle being found. We have her not using any means of taking care of herself that she should have regular access to. She wanted to fire up her phone and send her daughter a message. She supposedly has her phone. If she wanted to use her own accounts to withdraw money, to pay for anything, she should be able to do that, and she's not. So it's strange, of course, being an observer of this and saying, how can you not say that there isn't something suspicious going on here when it seems like there so clearly is? But obviously the bar for law enforcement is higher. They kind of need something very specific pointed out. And unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be happening in this particular case. Continuing, police continue to dig with investigation into Khan disappearance. There are a few leads that are trickling in, and clearly the investigation is still ongoing, says Mankato Public Safety Director Todd Miller. For quite some time, our entire detective unit was working on this. Not much else got done because this was a priority. Police say it's help from the public that will assist them in finding Wendy. Somebody out there knows, and it's probably more than one individual, knows where she is or what happened, and it takes that person to come forward and provide that information to us, says Miller. We will not forget. We will not close cases. We will not quit investigating. We will continue to dig because we know that this is their loved one. This is someone from our community, and everyone deserves to have someone fight for them, and so that's what we'll continue to do until we come to some conclusion. And of course, what about the family? Over at KEYC.com, loved ones urge public not to forget Wendy Khan. Khan's daughter, Anissa Khan, said she recently took a semester off from college. We moved her things from Pennsylvania to Mankato, so I've been putting that stuff away and going through things to see if there's like hints or clues that she left behind, maybe that like the police didn't notice, said Anissa. Other than that, it's just really stressful. Another interesting point that I heard Anissa talk about at care11.com in the longer version of that video segment that I started this with, which by the way is in the description box below, right at the top of the sources if you want to watch that entire video clip. She talked about the fact that her and her mom were supposed to move in together, that they were talking about getting a condo somewhere and living together. So it does seem to me that there was some type of change in the living arrangements and very likely the relationship that Wendy was in at that point. Oh, let's continue here. Vanderplas said the Search for Wendy Khan group has worked with the Crime Stoppers of Minnesota. I believe that's a Facebook group. I've got a link to that in the description box below as well. 3 months down the line, the case is still ongoing, and Khan's daughter said she has noticed a decline in the public's interest in the case. Whoever you see on the streets or whoever you're talking to, like your friends, your family, bring her up, said Anissa. And that's exactly why I'm sitting here doing this now. Another article at southernminnesotanews.com. A daughter, desperate to learn what happened to her mother, has posted a public plea. My mom would never get up and leave without a trace, without saying something to me, Anissa Khan said in the Facebook post. Something happened. She could not have left willingly. She left all her clothes and her 2 cats behind. Perhaps most frustrating for Wendy Khan's daughter is that there's been no evidence to change the case from a missing persons investigation to a criminal investigation. The missing woman's neighbors, however, were vocal in their suspicions of Wendy's boyfriend, the owner of the residence. I miss my best friend so much, Anissa Khan said on Facebook. Please keep a lookout for anything suspicious as hunting season arrives. All we want is this loving mother and friend to return home. And that is certainly what I want for Anissa as well. Over at MankatoFreePress.com, still missing family friends canvas to help find Mankato woman. This is from December 22nd, 2018. I don't have anything highlighted. Basically, it's just talking about the fact that they're still out there. The case is still in the same state. Not literally that it's in Minnesota, but it's still in the same status of being considered a missing persons case and not a criminal investigation. I haven't seen any information that that changes as time has progressed on this case. So it's a little frustrating. I just wish that law enforcement would get that information they need. And that's why we're here doing this. If you have that info, please, please, please call it in. The search for Wendy Kahn, Bring Wendy Home Safe, is the Facebook page that I will have referenced down below. On top of that, I've got a couple of other resources, including UnitedLegacy.org. This is the first time I've bumped into information about this group. They are a search and rescue organization focused on helping loved ones bring the missing home, and they do have a donate feature. On behalf of myself and my wonderful supporters on both Patreon and PayPal, we are going to make a donation to United Legacy in honor of them helping with the search for Wendy Kahn. I will also have a link down below to a web sleuth thread. It's only 2 pages, but a lot of great information came out there. It's where I found the link for the warrant records that we were able to pull up on this. Sometimes those threads aren't too solid for being only 2 pages. This one was really, really strong. You might want to check that out if you're looking into this case more. So that's it for Wendy's case. We're now going to touch on a brief update with Robbie Hurt's case. I did have a little bit of contact with his mother. I was asking if there was any additional details she wanted me to get out there. I didn't get a reply from that in time for this, but we did have a brain scratcher and a bit of a Twitter buddy of mine that contributed a significant post that touched on some details that I really wanted to make sure that we drilled in with this case. So I want to reshare those with you guys here in the actual video instead of it being in the comments. A big thank you to True Crime Mavens, and I'll have links down below to both of their Twitter and their Facebook group. I love when I see people trying to help in significant ways like this, to take the time to just punch all this up and to post it on the video to add this much meaningful information really means a lot to me. So I want to thank True Crime Mavens. There were 2 people close to Robbie that answered questions for us. I will post below. Where was he headed when he left his friend's house? He received a phone call and then left the friend's house according to the friend. Were Robbie and the friend the only 2 people at that friend's house? The friend lives with his elderly parents. They were there also. Did Robbie change clothes at the friend's house? If so, what reason was given for this? I've been told Robbie's truck was stuck and the friend helped get it out. His clothes were wet and the friend gave him dry clothes. Has the friend been questioned? Yes, the friend has been questioned, once at his house and the next time at the police station. The police said they couldn't get a read on him. He has been asked to take a lie detector test. The source I talked to mentioned that as well. I have a feeling that they might have talked to the same source as me, but there was a lot of information I didn't want to share unless I could find kind of supporting news articles to really flesh that out. This is a little different because now I'm doing a comment review of someone else's comments. So just take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but they did talk to 2 sources. I only talked to one, and a lot of what I was told by that one is lining up with this information. So let's continue. Did his wife know of this friend before Robbie went missing? I think his wife knew of him, but had never met him. I heard the exact same thing. Has his wife been questioned? I'm sure his wife has been questioned. She's talked to police almost every day. She has never been a suspect. Now, that being said, I know that many of you are considering the possibility that she might be involved in this in some way. I can tell you people close to the case are considering that possibility as well. If you look into her social media, there's just some strange things. It's weird because I didn't want to present all that in the same episode where I was laying out all this factual information. It's facts, but it's stuff that is kind of subjective, you know. She changes her Facebook profile photo from a photo of the 2 of them to just a photo of her on the day that he goes missing. She takes a couple trips. Looks like she's having a lot of fun in the period of time since he's gone missing. So there's things that certain people are really looking at critically. I don't know if it's realistic to expect or to see those as indicators that she has some level of involvement. So I'm trying to be very cautious about that aspect, but I did want to address, I'm seeing your comments. I know that there are people thinking that. I get it. Just where it comes to where the rubber meets the road for the information, I can't find anything to really support it. Strange things that make you think about it, certainly. Any type of physical evidence to point in that direction, not that has been brought to my attention or that I've been able to find so far. Has CCTV footage been checked along the route that he may have traveled or around where the truck was found to see if Robbie was the one driving the truck after he left his friend's house? It's a great question. There was a gas station near where the truck was found. They checked surveillance footage from that day, and it was snowing so hard all that could be made out was shapes of people. We were told the police did not fingerprint the truck because the friend admitted to being in it. Why was it said the friend was in the truck? Why would they not fingerprint the truck? The friend said he had been in it to make sure it was Robbie's, and also the tow truck driver was in it. So the police said it wouldn't do any good to fingerprint it. I don't know if that's exactly accurate because they could still fingerprint it. They could fingerprint those guys and they could eliminate fingerprints that came from those guys. And if there was someone else that didn't match that, it could potentially be the person that we're looking at if someone did indeed harm Robbie. Have cell phone records been checked for phone calls right before and in the same time since his disappearance? Phone records have been turned over to police who said they couldn't do anything with them until proof of a crime. Where was Robbie's wallet found? We've heard 3 different places: the couch at the friend's house, the floor at the friend's house, and the pants Robbie changed out of at the friend's house. When the police called the friend to tell him they were coming to question him, he turned to his wife and said, "Oh yeah, I forgot. I have Robbie's wallet." Once again, please take this with a grain of salt. That obviously does not sound like information that you got in any type of official report, but it did come in from one of the sources. What does Robbie do for a job? He's a carpenter and stonemason by trade. I couldn't remember if I really discussed that in the episode, so I just want to make that clear. Have his bank accounts, cards been checked? His wife checked those first thing and continually checked them daily. No activity at all. And was the truck actually stuck in a ditch? According to their sources, no. It was just sitting on the shoulder. So, bunch of new information from 2 sources. Once again, big thank you to True Crime Mavens for taking the time to punch all that up, and I hope you appreciate having their insight into that case now as well. Before we end today's episode, I have to thank several new patrons, starting with Jennifer Swarbrick. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Amy Smith. Thank you, Amy. And Lark English. Thank you so much, Lark. On top of that, Irene Vasquez increased her pledge. Thank you so much, Irene. I really appreciate having your help so we can do great things like we're doing in today's episode, donating to a cause that is directly helping the case. Might continue to help the case in the future, but even if they don't help that case in particular, I know they're going to help other cases. So this money's going to a very good place. Take care, everyone. I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch.